Welcome to the September 22nd meeting of the Murfreesboro City Council. Councilmember Kurt Wade has our prayer.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Chris Johnson, would you come forward tonight? Chris is with Zion Christian Ministries. He's going to give us an overview of his Man Maker Academy. Give us 2 minutes, Chris, and give us the prayer. And then Joshua Miller, which is our city clerk, is going to give us our, what is that? Pledge. Pledge. Josh is going to be leaving us at the end of the month, which is next week. And we just want to say, hey, we appreciate what you've done for the city and have a great time in Ohio. Chris.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for this opportunity to share. I pastor a church called Zion Christian Ministries here in town. I've been in Murfreesboro for the past 20 years. I'm also serving as the team chaplain for the MTSU football team. So over those years, I've been mentoring young men for as long as I've been here. And we started an 8-week mentoring program for young men called Man Maker Academy from ages 13 and up. And we've taken nearly 50 young men in Rutherford County through that program, and we've had awesome results from that program. Young men who have been court ordered or just gotten in a little trouble, or maybe just mom just dropped them off and said they needed some guidance. And so thank you so much for that opportunity to share. Let us pray. God, we thank you for this opportunity, Lord, for us to gather and discuss and talk about this great city that we call home, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. We pray now, God, for continued guidance for our city officials, for everyone who serves, for everyone who has a vested interest in this great city. We pray, God, now for those who are in times of travail and grief, those who have suffered loss. We pray that you would give them comfort. And it's in your Son, Jesus' name, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Joshua.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Tonight it is my honor to present the STARS Award to a very well-deserved individual. STARS is a 5-point employee recognition program designed to encourage citywide employee engagement while also providing excellent service. The STARS Award recipients typically have built-in initiative, consider public service as more than just a job, and go the extra mile to provide outstanding service to internal and external customers. Simply said, STARS lead by example. They treat others with the highest regard and respect. This is exactly why tonight's recipient of our STARS Award is being presented to Officer Lance Hoffmeister. Officer Hoffmeister has been a city police officer for over 6 years. In April of this year, Officer Lance Hoffmeister made a new best friend in an elderly lady walking along the side of Old Fort Parkway. She was using a walker and she was trying to get to her hair appointment. Unintentionally, Officer Hoffmeister's genuine actions of concern and kindness to help Miss Elizabeth Good arrive safely to her appointment was caught on video by a citizen. The video was posted online and actually went viral nationwide. Officer Hoffmeister's story has been shared on numerous local radio and TV stations, including Inside Edition and an upcoming episode on NBC's The Kelly Clarkson Show, which will air October 12th. Let's watch.
That's pretty good. I saw it on TV.
It was this TikTok post by @SarahMarie988 on April 29th with the caption, "Just saw this Murfreesboro police officer take this adorable elderly lady to her hair appointment." So far, 160,000 views, more than 3,600 likes, and nearly 100 comments. So we did a little investigation of our own to find out the backstory. It was a routine day on patrol for Murfreesboro Police Field Training Officer Lance Hoffmeister.
I just was driving down Old Fort Parkway and noticed would appear to be a senior citizen walking down the highway with her walker.
Hoffmeister became concerned.
I didn't know if she wandered away. I didn't know if she was lost. I didn't know exactly what was going on, but that is why I wanted to check on her.
The woman rode a WeGo bus from Nashville and had just been dropped off at a bus stop at Old Fort Park.
She was very bright, very sweet, and she just said that she was trying to get to her hair appointment.
She was scheduled to get a perm at the Paul Mitchell The School Murfreesboro at the Stones River Town Center.
Can you get your leg up there?
You just stand behind me so that.
Yep, no problem. I got you. You ready? All right, you okay? Okay, where's your family?
The 1 mile ride gave Hoffmeister an opportunity to find out more about his newfound friend, 84-year-old Elizabeth Good.
She's just such a sweet soul, and told me a couple stories along the way, but that was just a great moment.
The more and more they talked reminded Hoffmeister of someone close to his heart.
I lost my grandmother a couple years back, and it just kind of, gave me that feeling all over again of just the, sincere, nostalgic kind of, I don't know, it was just a great feeling.
For Officer Hoffmeister, this simple gesture ranks at the top of all of his calls for service.
It was definitely a sweet moment, and I'll always remember it.
Let me see how I can help you here.
No, I don't know riding up this car.
It's not very
For
comfortable.
real.
You ready?
Community policing at its best.
You're very welcome. I'm Lance, Hoffmeister. Elizabeth Good. I'll never forget you.
Thank you a lot.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, no problem.
For Behind the Badge, I'm Larry Flowers.
So Officer Hoffmeister is here with us tonight, along with his wife, Leah. And on behalf of the city of Murfreesboro, thank you for showing such genuine compassion and empathy while in the line of duty, and also for just having a good heart. Your coworkers have described your actions as an exemplary example of true community policing and service to others. Your selfless, spontaneous act of kindness, accommodation, generosity, and assistance for the betterment of Miss Good's welfare is admirable, and we would like to recognize you. You have set the bar high for all of us. Thank you, and congratulations to Officer Hoffmeister.
So we appreciate Lance and his kindness. Lance is one that he was videoed for his kindness and service, but I think all of us who've been up here and all of us who represent the city, Lance is just one example of the people that we have working for the city of Murfreesboro who are trying to do the right thing. And I tell my boys, it's not what happens like when we're up here on a Thursday night when the cameras are running. It's what happens when people are not filming you, and I'm proud of our employees who work for the city of Murfreesboro. So I feel like I need to get his autograph as well, so we'll have to get that afterwards. All right, you have your consent agenda in front of you. You have 15 items. Is there anything that needs to be added or removed to the consent agenda?
So move.
Second.
Motion and second. Ms. Brown, please call the roll.
Ms. Averwater?
Aye.
Ms. Scales Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye. Hey, I also need to, I think it's clearly pretty obvious that the gentleman who's sitting in the city manager's seat is not Craig Tyndall. Mr. Tyndall, his dad is being released from the hospital, I think, as we speak. So Mr. Gore is filling in for Mr. Tyndall tonight. This will be your first meeting that as sitting as an active city manager?
Yes, sir.
All right.
It is.
Buckle up, everybody. All right, we'll move to old business, and you have land use matters. You have ordinance 22 OZ 26, rezoning property along Franklin Road. This is second and final reading.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Please call the roll.
Ms. Averwater?
Aye.
Ms. Scales Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye. You have item 17, ordinance 22 OZ 27. This is rezoning property along Wilkerson Pike. This is second and final reading.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Ms. Averwater?
Aye.
Ms. Scales Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye. Item 18, I do have an amendment to the agenda. This is ordinance 22 OZ 28, but if you'll make note that this is not for the plan of services and for the annexation that already passed. This is just for the zoning for property along Elam Road and Joe B. Jackson Parkway, and this is second and final reading.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Please call the roll.
Ms. Averwater?
Aye.
Ms. Scales Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye. All right, we'll move to new business, and you have on ordinance apartment bifurcation policy. This is water resources. Mr. Gore.
Mayor, thank you. City Council for the opportunity. What you have before you tonight is a modification to City Code to exempt redevelopment of apartment complexes that reduce bedroom count, even though they may increase the unit count. So I did prepare some slides, not knowing I was going to be acting city manager tonight, but Water Resource Director hat here. I'm not going to read the ordinance to you verbatim, but in essence, it says if the Water Resources Department determines that a project proposed by an applicant for sewer service is likely to decrease the maximum daily wastewater generation allowance established for the pre-existing development, the applicant may petition the city for proposed development that would result in a reduction in bed count while potentially increasing the number of apartment units. And then the city may authorize that project if, and there's several other items that are in the ordinance that are more of a planning nature. But a sample apartment bifurcation plan, this is something that's happening throughout the city. For example, this is a 4-bedroom, 2-bath unit, and a lot of this bifurcation plan is to come in and say, take that 4-bedroom, 4-bath into a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, and a 1-bedroom, 1-bath. So you effectively lose a bed count, but you create 2 apartment units. So we've gone through, and I don't want to get too much into the math, but we have gone through and determined that when that occurs, we do see a significant reduction in sewer usage. So the 2 examples I have here are of a 4-bedroom, 648 units, or number of bedrooms, that generate almost 16.5 million gallons of sewage per year, compared to a 1- and 2-bedroom unit complex of 488 units and 7.6 million. So you see there's a reduction in the bedroom count of 24.7%. You almost get a 54% reduction in the sewer. That's a almost a 2.2 ratio. And again, these are the proposed redevelopment projects that are proposing to do the same thing. So you can see that we have somewhere between a 14% and a 39% reduction in bed count, which if you apply that same ratio, we're looking at somewhere between a 30 and an 85% reduction in sewer discharge. So this ordinance effectively allows that to happen with the expectation that the density or the unit count would go up, but the bedroom count would go down and reduce the sewer consumption. So they would, in effect, be exempt from having to go through the sewer allocation project. They would not be exempt from going through the planning process, so they would still have to meet all of the planning requirements. But this ordinance allows for reduced bed counts to not have to go through the sewer allocation process.
I want to update our new council members. Where this has been a significant issue is predominantly around campus, where these units that have open space, and even though you may have 200 units, they were leasing the units per room. So in essence, you had 800 leases. And I think our police department would also tell you this is where we were having some of our most significant crime issues. So there's been several companies that have come in over the last couple of years buying these units, realizing that this model does not work safely, and they've been converting these back to traditional apartment complexes. And every time that apartment complex changes, they're having to come to the council to ask for a sewer variance, even though the sewer capacity and the sewer usage is going down. So I think we're trying to promote that we would much rather see individual units as opposed to units rented per room. Is that safe,
Correct.
Mr. Gore?
Yes, sir.
If there are no questions, I move for approval.
Second.
Motion is second. Please call the roll.
Ms. Averwater?
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye. Before we go to item 20, I did skip over something under ceremonial items. We have several members from Leadership Rutherford who are here. If y'all don't mind, if you would stand up.
Oh.
Yeah, thank y'all for coming. My kids just started youth leadership Rutherford on Tuesday, and one of the things that we all agree to that you'll stay to the absolute last minute of the meeting. So, and y'all have picked a really good one to come to tonight.
Yes, right.
All right, we'll move to item 20. This is the removal of the Three Rivers Special Sanitary Sewer Assessment District. Mr. Gore.
Yes, sir. As you stated, this is effectively a removal of a special sewer assessment district known as the Three Rivers. This was established in 2014. The Water Resources Department had to expend about $240,000 to make improvements to the sewer, which created a $900 per single-family unit assessment. In 2015, council approved that when these special sewer assessments effectively paid themselves back, that the assessments would be terminated or removed from city code. So that's what you have in front of you tonight.
Any questions for Mr. Gore?
So move.
Second.
Motion is second. Please call the roll.
Ms. Averwater?
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye. All right, we'll move to item 21. This is fiscal year 23 budget amendment.
Thank you. We have a budget amendment to increase expenses for the Town Creek project, add a project coordinator position to admin, and increase fire's budget for ramp repairs at Station 1. The total impact to unassigned fund balance is about $8.9 million. I do want to clarify that this is for non-recurring expenses at use of fund balance, not for our operating expenses. I'm happy to answer any questions and recommend approval on first reading.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion is second. Please call the roll.
Ms. Averwater?
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye. All right, we have amendment to the procurement code.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. On September 1st, council approved on second and final reading a revision to the procurement code, which changed the threshold above which competitive bids are required to match the state level or the amount authorized by state law from $25,000 to $50,000. At that time, we inadvertently left out a change in the section of the procurement code dealing with sole source purchases. Sole source purchases are already not required. You're not required to have competitive bidding, but it's our recommendation that that threshold be changed from $25,000 to $50,000 to facilitate purchases by the city.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Please call the roll.
Ms. Averwater?
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye. All right, we'll move to resolution. You have Resolution 22R22. This is signal maintenance agreement for Medical Center Parkway in the I-24 exit ramp signalization. Mr. Kerr.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. TDOT is completing the design of a ramp queue project at the request of the City of Murfreesboro for the I-24 westbound and eastbound ramps at exit 76, which is Medical Center Parkway. Safety, capacity, and operational issues were identified as concerned on the I-24 exit ramps, where it intersects with Medical Center Parkway. The exit ramps onto Medical Center Parkway do not have sufficient storage links, which causes traffic queues that extend to the main line of I-24. When a state installs a traffic signal as a component of a project within the city is required to provide electricity and maintain the traffic signal. Accordingly, TDOT has provided a contract for this purpose. Project is anticipated for an October 2023 letting. And just for your information, City Council originally approved this maintenance agreement January of 2019. I guess this is a new process for TDOT. I'm available for any questions.
If no questions, I move for approval.
Second.
Motion is second. Please call the roll.
Ms. Averwater?
Aye.
Ms. Scales Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, we'll now move to land use matters. We have item 24. This is a plan of services for annexation and zoning for property along Highway 99. Mr. Blomley.
Thank you, Mayor McFarland, and good evening, Mayor and members of council. We have an annexation and plan of services to present to you tonight along the southeast side of Highway 99. The subject property is about 68.25 acres, and it is located directly to the south of the Rockville High and Rockville Middle campuses. Property is currently undeveloped, and we have a companion zoning request, which will be the next item on the agenda. The plan of services that is provided for you in the agenda materials demonstrates that the city will be able to provide services to the subject property upon annexation. Its immediate impact will be relatively nominal, considering there are no structures developed on the property. So services that would have to be rendered upon annexation would be minimal. But our plan of services does demonstrate that we will be able to provide services both for the property in its present state and for the property as it develops. The application for annexation has been submitted by the owners of the property, and particularly because the property has sanitary sewer available to it. Sanitary sewer was extended to this area with the development of the Rockville multi-campus or multi-school campus in this area, the Rockville High, Rockville Middle, and Rockville Elementary School. So sewer is actually stubbed right here in the northeast corner of the subject property, so it is available to the subject property. And I think that's the primary reason why the applicants have requested annexation, because they can, because sewer is available to it, and so it made sense for them to pursue a development inside the city limits, hooking on to city sanitary sewer. In addition, it is part of the Overall Creek Sanitary Sewer Assessment District, and the city supportive of the request for annexation because we are currently recouping the funds for the Sanitary Sewer Assessment District, and the proposed development on this property will assist in that endeavor to recoup those funds for the extension of sanitary sewer to this area. When this went before the Planning Commission originally back in April, when the public hearing was held on this matter, the plan of services and the annexation included the right-of-way of Highway 99 to the existing city limits. So you see here, this area here is the Carlton Landing subdivision, and the right-of-way directly in front of the Carlton Landing subdivision is located within the city limits. So initially we had studied the right-of-way stretching out from right in front of Carlton Landing to right in front of the subject property that's been requested. However, and this is the reason, one of the reasons why we conduct our plan of services, is to identify any issues in the provision of services. Some of the feedback that we got from our public infrastructure and transportation departments is that with the school zones that were in place there for the 3 Rockville school campuses, that it was not desirable to annex the right-of-way of Highway 99. If the city were to annex the right-of-way of Highway 99, the city would assume responsibility for managing those school zones, the school traffic, as well as implementing any, in conjunction with TDOT, of course, implementing any improvements to segment of Highway 99 that would be annexed. So the Planning Commission held its public hearing on April the 6th, at which time it deferred action. Staff, after further study and after a neighborhood meeting was conducted after that public hearing, brought the item back to the Planning Commission on May the 18th under old business and recommended that the right-of-way of Highway 99 be excluded from the Planning Commission's motion, and that the Planning Commission just recommend the annexation of the private property that had been requested for annexation, and to recommend this as a non-contiguous annexation. The Planning Commission at that May 18th meeting did request the annexation of the private property only, and to exclude the right-of-way of Highway 99 from the annexation study and plan of services. And as such, the plan of services was revised prior to City Council to exclude that right-of-way. And the annexation ordinance has been submitted to you accordingly also, without that right-of-way included. I will mention, even though the right-of-way, if this is approved, even though the right-of-way would not be within the city's jurisdiction, both the city and TDOT would continue to review any improvements to the property and to the right-of-way, and as well as any connections to that right-of-way. And as you'll see in the zoning request, which is the next item on the agenda, there are some specific improvements that would be required to the Highway 99 roadway if the zoning request is approved. I'll be happy to answer any questions before or after the public hearing. As I mentioned, the Planning Commission did recommend approval of this annexation without the right-of-way.
Any questions for Mr. Blomley? Okay, we need to hold a public hearing on the annexation and the plan of services. Just to let the audience know, this is for the ability that we can provide services and that we can annex the property. There will be the zoning for this property after, and if the zoning fails, then the plan of annexation and the plan of services would also fail. If you wish to speak, you'll come to the podium. You'll have 3 minutes. If you're representing an individual, you'll have 5 minutes. If you're representing a group, if you'll keep all comments and questions to the City Council, we'll get those answered at the end of the public hearing. Please make sure that you state your name and address. Anyone wishing to speak for or against, please come to the podium.
Well, I'll get this thing started. My name's David Ragsdale. I think most of you have probably received an email from me. My address is 7299 Highway 99, Rockville, Tennessee. I could go on for a lot longer than 3 minutes about why this is a bad idea. However, rather than jumping off into all of the traffic issues that it'll cause and etc., most everybody on this council was sitting on this council when the 2035 Murfreesboro Comprehensive Plan was put together back in 2017 when it was approved. The City Council approved that comprehensive plan to the tune of spending about $750,000 of the citizens of Murfreesboro's money. It was money well spent. It's a wonderful plan. I have probably one of the few people outside of anybody sitting at these desks that has probably read that entire plan. What I would like to do is really kind of get some answers on why the City Council, or the Planning Commission for that matter, would move in a direction that really goes against the guiding principles of that plan. Just for reference, and I just pulled a couple of excerpts out of that plan, in specifically that mention non-contiguous annexation. For one, guiding principle number 3 states that development should occur on vacant infill areas and/or areas contiguous to existing development, and then span sequentially outward as adequate facilities become available. This is followed by land use goal number 6, which is to preserve the outlying areas of the urban growth boundary, which this property sits in order to accommodate growth beyond the 20-year horizon of the plan. Murfreesboro certainly is going to continue to grow, but in that plan, the Commission is charged by the comprehensive plan to encourage growth trends that ensure new development occurs in a contiguous, orderly, and fiscally responsible manner. Contiguous growth is highlighted by growth principle number 2, which states to establish a balance between contiguous, outward growth, and inward directed infill development, redevelopment, rehabilitation, and reuse projects. It also states in the 2035 plan that the Commission is encouraged to ensure growth in a logical and contiguous manner to avoid growth that is haphazard and scattered. Given their cost efficiency, development of areas already within or contiguous to the city limits and closer to existing infrastructure and services is more suitable than development which occurs in outlying areas. The state of Tennessee has also had a number of things to say in regards to non-contiguous annexation.
Mr. Ragsdale,
yeah.
I'm going to give you a few minutes or a few seconds to wrap it up, please.
That's fine.
Yes, thank you.
No, but I would also like you to understand that this is bigger than just the city of Murfreesboro. The state of Tennessee has made the statements when they passed Public Chapter 707, which changed the laws on how property could be annexed, that whether county approval is required or not, non-contiguous annexation should be limited to commercial or industrial development and government-owned property to avoid the problems created by patchwork residential development. That's exactly what we're talking about here.
Thank you, Mr. Ragsdale.
I encourage this council to vote nay on this annexation.
Thank you, sir. All right, anyone else wishing to speak on the plan of services and the annexation?
I'm Pettis Reed, 11795 Mount Pleasant Road, Rockville, Tennessee. I'm also a county commissioner, and yes, I'm outside my chambers by being here with you, Mayor and the councilman, but I do appreciate the opportunity of being before you. And to tell you the truth, yes, I do not enjoy being here before you in this. I like better to be over here in the historic courthouse. But I'm here this evening representing over 16,000 out there in District 8, and some of them have been asked a whole lot about this. In fact, we have a petition that contains over 1,200 names, and that's why I'm here this evening, speaking on this on their behalf, talking about some of the things that are in concern with this project. Many of these individuals, and I think if you'll look back to what was discussed back in April as far as the Planning Commission discussed here, many of them did not come out to the fact of saying no development whatsoever. They said let's look at it differently in the way it's being done due to the fact of the traffic and the problems that we already have there. Plus, there's also the problem of a non-contiguous annexation. Now, when we talk about a non-contiguous annexation, we have to remember that your Planning Commission did when they sent this on to you as a city council group, that it has within it that there was also to be an interlocal agreement between the county and the city. That was brought to us, and it was brought before not only a small group to discuss it somewhat, it was also brought to the Public Works Committee on August the 9th. It was presented by your delegation to that group of commissioners. I was there that evening. I have that agreement within my hand that was presented to them, and within it, it also says C, it says TCA 651-104 D4, Tennessee Code annotated, and TCA 5113 requires that the county and the city to enter into an interlocal agreement with respect to such a non-contiguous annexation. That committee did not make a motion to send it on to the full commission, so they denied it. There has not been a signed agreement between the county and the city, so that's not here. So it's not here part of what's being done tonight. What we have here is a problem, I think, of what we're seeing. We have a group of individuals concerned about the safety of 2,500 high school students, 1,200 middle school students, and 1,000 elementary students, because this development sits right in front of the elementary school with its exit and entrance right in front of that elementary school. So these are our concerns, and there is a missing document that is required for this to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Anyone else wishing to speak for the annexation of the plan of services? All right, seeing none. Oh,
I'll say a few words. Obviously, I'm against this development.
can I get your name and address, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. Brady Allred, 5871 East Overall Creek Road.
Okay.
Rockvale. It's obvious I'm against this development for a number of reasons have been mentioned. Traffic, the land itself, at wet times, is not much more than a swamp. And this about non-contiguous annexation concerns me because, and even using the highway as to make things contiguous is I don't think that is legal. But anyway, my concern with that is, okay, why couldn't you annex a property right outside Eagleville city limits? You know, I think it could get out of control. And I think, you know, they say, well, build it and the problem solved, the solution to the problem will come, but that's not the way it works. The problems ought to be solved before annexation or anything else is taking place. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allred. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Matt Taylor of SEC, 850 Middle Tennessee Boulevard here in Murfreesboro, and I represent my client, Patterson Homes. We obviously support the annexation of the property itself. Our only concern is exactly the access to the road. We want to make sure that we can access that road through permitting with TDOT and the city of Murfreesboro. We have, throughout this process, we have understood the concern of the traffic, not only of the neighbors, but of also city and county traffic staff. And so we actually undertook a separate traffic study from what you would normally do to tell the county schools in the county exactly how to address this operational issue. And so that will involve improvements on Highway 99 as well as on county property. We have provided that to the county staff, county commissioner, also provided that to the neighbors at our neighborhood meeting. And so those are not things that we can undertake, but we have provided that solution, which is really over and above what a normal project would do. So we'll be happy to answer any questions about that study if you'd like, but we would like a clear path forward on the road itself. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Anyone else wishing to speak for or against? Yes, ma'am. This is for the annexation and the plan of services. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Martha Boshiers, and I live at 7313 Highway 99. And every morning, the traffic is backed up. It's almost a mile from the school. The traffic is backed up to my driveway and past. And everything they say about the danger to the kids going to this school, with all the extra traffic 187 homes are going to bring, is going to be ridiculous. Before you let this happen, each one of you should come and sit in the lines, picking up kids and dropping off kids in front of that school. It is horrendous. And it is not something that is going to go away by his planned studies. If they've done studies about improving the highway, they should be done before they put in this kind of a neighborhood. I know people need homes, but our children need safety. And parents coming and going need safety. And it's a pure, unadulterated mess. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bashir. Anyone else wishing to speak on the annexation and the plan of services? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and we'll consider on first reading Resolution 22 RPS 18.
I have some questions, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
I've scribbled down some notes, so just be patient with me. And I'm trying to get a picture of the whole project, okay? So it was mentioned in the plan of services document that we are proposing to annex the property, provide sewer, but not annex the road because of the known traffic problems that we have with Rockvale Middle and Rockvale High. Is that correct? We know of this problem, but we are willing to annex this property. And I guess one thing that kind of got me the other day, it took me 17 minutes to get onto Haynes Drive. I was timing it because of the traffic, and that's considered small traffic with all the schools. So is that what we're proposing?
To annex the private property but not the right-of-way?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am.
So are we okay with that? Because, we have to wait on the state because it's a state road, is that right?
It is a state road, so the state would control any improvements from a corridor standpoint. As Mr. Taylor mentioned, he's done he and his clients commissioned a traffic study to provide to the county to let them know improvements that could help the school zone traffic. And those improvements were both in the right-of-way of Highway 99 as well as on the private property, on the private school property that would assist in the queuing issues that have been discussed.
So, but we are willing to go ahead with this, is what I'm saying, knowing that this problem. That was the first thing I was going to ask. And the second thing is, I think it's also relevant that the PRD contains 182 units, and this is going to be on 68 acres, which is going to be approximately 2.6 unit per acre, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So in reading the minutes from the Planning Commission, it seems like that the low density that was discussed is what caused it to go through the Planning Commission. Is that right? Someone that's on the Planning Commission?
Yes, the low is less than 3 per acre.
So, but we are continuously stretching the resources further and further out from the city. And so are we jumping county parcels, schools, and extending the city limits for just a half a mile to build 180 homes instead of first improving the roads? That's what we say we're doing. Are we turning a blind eye to the road situation?
No, ma'am. We are, as a part of the development, we will be requiring the applicants to construct improvements in front of their property to accommodate the traffic that will be generated by their development, as far as ingress, egress into their development, turn lanes, extending the center turn lane, and Mr. Taylor will go over those in more detail, but improvements in front of their property will be a part of their development, and that will be done, that will be something that will be overseen by our city engineer.
I think this may be a good segue to ask for Mr. Huddleston to come up. And if Mr. Huddleston, if you can give us an update on where the Highway 99 construction is progressing, and specifically where the state is in regards to this specific portion. I think the first phase of Highway 99 was from I-24 to Carlton Lane, and then the second phase is from Old Fort Parkway back to 24. The third phase will be from Carlton Lane to Veterans Parkway, and then the fourth phase will be from Veterans Parkway
southwest of Rockvale.
Out this direction.
Certainly. So, if your permission, Mayor, I might back up and address a statement
Okay.
Ms. Scales-Harris made. The city staff's decision or recommendation not to annex the right-of-way was not to turn a blind eye to the traffic, the school zone traffic issues, but in fact it was to avoid the cost of those improvements. In the traffic study that was performed by Collier Engineering, most of those improvements were outside the right-of-way, so we really don't have the ability to go onto private property, improve school access and school circulation and all that. So it wasn't to turn a blind eye to that, but it was to avoid the city picking up the responsibility for that cost of that existing traffic situation. State Route 99 improvements certainly are important to that. So to give you a quick update and maybe to recap a little bit that the mayor had provided there, Interstate 24 interchange was added to State Route 99 several years ago, and the Phase 2 project, which goes from 24 to Carlton Lane, is complete and open to traffic. And I think for people who use that corridor, those were welcomed improvements. And we're currently under construction from I-24 back into town to Old Fort Parkway with an expected completion in the next perhaps 12 to 15 months. Phase 3, which is in right-of-way acquisition, that takes us from Carlton Lane to Veterans Parkway. And that particular phase of work is projected to be in the October 23 bid letting and would follow closely behind the completion of the current phase under construction. And that's also probably an 18 to a 24-month construction project. The fourth phase of this is actually on the city's major transportation plan, and that would go from Veterans Parkway to southwest of Rockvale. There's a second road that's on our major transportation plan that's not yet in place, and that's recommended for a 5-lane facility. That project, however, is not on TDOT's radar screen, and so they don't have it listed as a pending or even a planned project. And so we look back at the traffic counts on that roadway, and today those traffic counts are about, in the Rockville area, about 9,000 cars per day. That's the capacity of a 2-lane road can handle 9,000 cars per day. And based on our expected growth rate for traffic in that area of 1 to 2% per year, it's probably 10 to 15 years before the traffic volumes on State Route 99 would suggest that it needs to be transitioned from a 2-lane roadway to a 4-lane roadway. And so within the next few years, the city, working through the MPO and with TDOT, would encourage them to review that project and get it on their radar screen for improvement. But it's not needed for corridor capacity today, I guess is where we're at on it, and why TDOT doesn't have it on their list. There are some what we call traffic operational issues, school zone being an example of that, intersections where there's high left turn volumes are also part of that, and Mr. Blomley's reference to roadway improvements that we would expect to be done with city developments through there. So that's a quick update, Mayor, on the status of State Route 99.
One more question. Can you update the council? Commissioner Reed talked about an interlocal agreement. We are not involved in those, but can you tell us what that interlocal agreement was, what we were asking the county to partner with, and what we were, I know that has to go through a different process than with the city, and the county has to go through a different process, but I think Commissioner Reed spoke in opposition of that at the Public Works Committee. Can you tell us about that interlocal agreement?
Sure, be glad to give you an update and perhaps a little background on that, Mayor. As is our normal course of action, when we propose annexation of county properties, we send our information over to the county planning and engineering staff, ask for their review and comments and statements that they might make. And they certainly share that same courtesy with us when they're managing rezoning applications, around our boundaries. And so their recommendation was that we annex the right-of-way of State Route 99. And as city staff reviewed that, our recommendation, as Mr. Blomley reported, was to not annex the right-of-way of State Route 99 to avoid the responsibility perhaps of trying to be the lead on the school zone traffic issues. And then county staff indicated an opposition to the non-contiguous annexation. And as was pointed out, the state annexation legislation makes reference to an interlocal agreement, and so city staff, our administration department, our planning staff, our legal staff, we met with county planning and administration and legal and roads. And Mr. Pettis was there as well, representing the commission and his concerns for the neighborhood. We heard their concerns. We talked about areas of responsibility, and from that meeting, our city attorney had drafted a proposed agreement, which we reviewed here as staff, thought it was a reasonable offer. The state annexation law requires the interlocal agreement to address two levels, two things of service. One of them is emergency services, and the second one is for the maintenance of roads and bridges. So those two categories of services, emergency services and maintenance of roads and bridges, were the areas that we looked at. The area in question then was the right-of-way of State Route 99, right? So that's the question of the agreement's language actually just addresses that corridor. The county emergency services, which would include ambulance, fire, and law enforcement, would continue. Our offer was for them to continue to provide services on that corridor as they are today. So normal operation. Then we would request, or as the county would do, they would provide county ambulance service as they do countywide to the city annex property, and the city services for police and fire we would provide for the city annex property as we normally do. TDOT is responsible for that roadway. It's theirs to operate and maintain, and so there was not an obligation on city maintenance, or there's not an obligation on county maintenance for the roads and bridges as was mentioned in the annexation law. And so the one thing that we did propose that the city would do is that the city engineer would be responsible for reviewing and approving any development plans in State Route 99 before they're submitted to TDOT. And as a courtesy, we offered to provide copies of those, and if requested by the county engineer for his review and approval, submit a review application fee of $500 for the time and effort it would take for the county engagement. And as was already mentioned by Mr. Taylor, we included a copy of the recommendations of the traffic study to help manage the traffic operations at the county school. I don't know the exact numbers on that, but I do recall that was estimated to be about $400,000 worth of improvements, most of which would be outside the roadway. And that'd actually be on the county school property. And so we provided that to them as a courtesy to maybe help the county be able to evaluate and rectify some of the traffic issues there. And then the final thing we did is we offered to match up to $500,000 of city money with county money to help induce TDOT to look at this corridor and consider a corridor project, not a spot traffic improvement project, but a corridor project that would start at Veterans Parkway and at least extend to southwest of the annex property. So that was our proposal. We requested to be on the agenda, and we presented that to the Public Works Committee of the County Commission, and it failed due to lack of action on the request. And so following the lack of action by the Public Works Committee, we then consulted with our legal staff and city administration on a way forward, and maybe at this point I could ask Mr. Tucker to provide his thoughts on where we were at there.
I want to understand this. So the city said even though the right-of-way for the high school that's on a two-lane state road, we said that we would be willing to contribute $500,000 to the upgrade of that corridor?
Yes, as a corridor project.
Okay. Mr. Tucker.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of council. I would like to make 3 basic points on this, and please bear with me. This involves a little bit of statutory interpretation, and I'll try to make it as clear and concise as possible. I'm going to start by reading the relevant portion of the statute as it pertains to interlocal agreements. Quote, "The municipality and county shall enter into an interlocal agreement pursuant to Section 5-1-113 of the Tennessee Code Annotated to provide emergency services for any interceding properties and to maintain roads and bridges comprising the primary route to the area thus annexed as the municipality and county deem necessary." I'm going to focus on 2 parts of that sentence. I'm going to start with the first part. I'll finish with the last few words. The first thing is that sentence does not say when the municipality and county shall enter into an interlocal agreement. It does not say that the interlocal agreement has to be entered before the annexation is approved by the city. That's important because if you look at other portions of the statute, the General Assembly clearly conditioned the city's or municipality's authority to annex property on certain conditions. For example, it said a municipality may annex a non-contiguous territory if the property is to be used for industrial or commercial purpose or for future residential development. There is no provision here that says a municipality may annex non-contiguous property if first the city and or the municipality and county enter into an interlocal agreement. So it's not I do not view it, it's my legal opinion that it's not a precondition to annexation by the city. Second, and this leads me to my second point, the view that a county could block a request for annexation simply by refusing to approve an interlocal agreement is inconsistent with the overall grant of authority to municipalities to annex property, whether that's contiguous property or non-contiguous property. And the third point I'll go to is are the last few words of that sentence that I read to you earlier. It ends with, as the municipality and county deem necessary. So it is really should be read, the municipality and county shall enter into an interlocal agreement as the municipality and county deem necessary. As Mr. Huddleston just said, there will be no change to the delivery of emergency services on that stretch of road between the current city limits and the proposed annexation area. Similarly, there's no change in how the roads and bridges on that primary route will change post-annexation. It's going to stay the same as it is. So in essence, the interlocal agreement was simply that was proposed by the city is simply restating the existing conditions with respect to the delivery of emergency services and the maintenance of the roadways. The city proposed that agreement, and at the Public Works Committee, there was not even a vote taken on the interlocal agreement. There was no motion. A reasonable interpretation of that is that the Public Works Committee did not deem an interlocal agreement necessary.
We also had a question about the on-site and off-site improvements that Mr. Taylor had talked about on the traffic improvements. Could we get an update on that as well? Or Mr.
And that's regarding the school or regarding the development?
I think the school.
So, yes, so with the interlocal agreement, we provided a copy, courtesy copy that Mr. Taylor and his team had provided to the city of that traffic study. And Mr. Taylor, if you want to provide some details.
So that, if I could, is it possible to get the aerial back on the monitor? I can walk through some of those recommendations. Perfect. So our site shown here in blue, this would be the elementary school across the road. This is middle, high. And so some of the recommendations that we had recommended are clearly on site, very internal to the site. It had to do with the way they stacked back here, had to do with curvature that's creating stop conditions and or unsafe movements on site, where it's forcing children, high school students on site to drive over the curb because the buses cannot make that turn right there. Other things involved things out the right of way. So on the very northern entrance, our study recommended an acceleration lane. So as people are leaving the high school and middle school campus, that we recommended the high school or the county construct a acceleration lane or a right turn lane coming toward Murfreesboro for several hundred feet at approximately where that blue line is. That would help people to keep moving north on 99 that are coming from the south, as well as letting these people turn right as they leave the campus and get up to speed. And so it would stop people from having to stop right here. Another one of our large improvements was that to construct a new entrance like this at the elementary school so that they could get rid of the crossing guard here and focus all the crossing guard and turning movements at one location. And that would allow on-site stacking at the elementary school, as well as increase turning movements and speed internal to the project. I think we may have also recommended a right turn lane at that same location, and the same thing here. I don't have those exact diagrams in front of me. One thing that our study noted was the crossing guards are doing a tremendous job today. These are things that can help improve this. And so our traffic consultant, I think they visited the site 8 or 9 times, took drone footage on multiple times. They drove this school zone multiple times. I think that one of our planning commissioners drove this school zone before the vote and said, I think his time was 7 minutes to get through. And so if you look at how long that school zone is, it's about a mile. It's going to take you about 3 minutes, I think was the correct math, if you're going the speed limit through there. And so the road functions until you introduce an artificial element, i.e. a crossing guard and the school traffic. And so we have given them several recommendations to improve those. Obviously, we cannot build this, we cannot do this, and it's certainly not our responsibility to build a northbound turn lane or this turn lane. Those should be treated like a private development, just like we're going to spend several $100,000 extending these turn lanes and right turn lanes that I'll show you in my presentation during the zoning. So hopefully that answered what you wanted there, Mayor.
Yeah. And I want the residents to know, as we go through the annexation and we talk about the plan of services, we study these things before they come to us. But what we're talking about, Mr. Huddleston, this will be my last question. And I was on the council when we extended sewer out into this area. But, it's like doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results is insanity. The part that I think that it's frustrating is city engineers, did we not share some of these concerns when the initial school was built on a state 2-lane route with 2 or 3 entrances? Did we not share some of these that we felt like with the sewer being extended and the development in that area that we thought that this was a recipe for disaster with the location and how this was set up?
Yes, Mayor, we, with the extension of sewer and making that available to them, part of the condition of that contract is, the review and approval of some of those improvements, and we did share that with them at the high school, and of course that was a state route as well, and we weren't able to maybe be as convincing then as perhaps we should have been, but certainly we had concerns about it then, and I don't remember the exact time when that came through, 04, 05, Mr. Gordon.
06.
06 is when it, so when it came through, and so yes, we've participated with review and approval of development plans with county schools and
the reason I say that to the residents, I remember sitting here in 06 that we were saying this is going to be an issue, putting a school and a campus this size on a 2-lane state route with the ingress and egress, and that we begged at the time, even when we were talking at planning, that hey, these things need to be adjusted, and here we are. And so
And we, Mayor, as you may recall, we did not annex the property, but we agreed to serve them as an outside the city sewer customer in accordance with the city ordinance at that time.
I have a question. What portion of Highway 99 here, I think I remember you saying maybe I don't know, I think Mr. Huddleston, someone said, I can't remember, that part of this, that TDOT has no plans to make improvements. What part of 99 is the state talking about?
I believe it stops, this aerial doesn't go up. Veterans Parkway is further up the screen here, Ms. Scales Harris, and it stops a little past Veterans Parkway. I think they do a widening through kind of the signal, and then they get a taper back down to the 2-lane section there.
Okay, thank you. And my last question here, I don't know who can answer this, but what's our timeline for completing this project and the state's timeline for their completion?
I think Mr. Huddleston said earlier he thought that the Phase 3 project, which would take it through Veterans Parkway, would bid in approximately October and last approximately 18 to 24 months, October of 23, sorry. And so that would put it in October of 25. Our project here, we would not expect to start seeing the first houses being lived in until probably sometime in 2024. If I'm not mistaken, this project is 182 houses. That's going to take several years to build through. And so TDOT would be done with their Phase 3 project before we were done with our build out here, if TDOT maintains that time frame. Obviously, we do not control that, but given what it's currently projected, they would be done before we are.
So, so we think that, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mayor.
I was just saying.
Go ahead, Mayor. Go ahead.
If for this portion of it, for the annexation and the plan of services, if we, in my opinion, if we have the interlocal agreement figured out, like Mr. Tucker thinks, I'll make a motion to pass the annexation and the plan of services, and we can deal with the other part during the zone.
I've got a question for Mr. Tucker, though. What if we never get an interlocal agreement? What if the county, for whatever reason, we never come to terms? 'Cause in the memo right here, it says per state law for non-continuous annexations, an interlocal agreement between the subject city and county is required to be executed. I'm just reading what's in my notes.
So 2 points is, one, it's to the extent that deemed necessary. So if there was a situation where was some back and forth and negotiating, where there was a disagreement about what was deemed necessary, then that would be one situation. But we don't have that situation. We don't have a situation where there's a change in any delivery of services. There's not, and there has not been a counteroffer or rejection of what was proposed. It just hasn't been voted on. I would also say that if you view that provision as mandatory, whether that's mandatory before or after a vote for annexation, then the obligation is on both government bodies to sit down at the table and hammer one out. It's not the city shall, the municipality shall, it's the municipality and county shall. So if it is an affirmative obligation, it rests with both parties. I don't read this as a precondition. I also don't read it as in a situation where either party has deemed it absolutely necessary. But if it, in a situation where it was deemed necessary by one or both parties, the obligation is a mutual obligation to the other imposed by state law, and the parties have to come together and enter into an agreement.
So would that be with the council would have to make a decision and the full commission, or is that just that would have to be determined by the county attorneys have to determine what body would do that? That's really up. I can't say from a county standpoint what the approval process would be. Okay. From a city standpoint, it's generally been our practice that interlocal agreements are approved by city council. Okay. All right, we have a motion.
Second.
Motion is second. Any questions?
We have 2 readings on this, right?
Yes, ma'am, 2 readings on
No,
this.
not on this.
Not on the, but the plan of services and the annexation is 1 reading, but the zoning will be 2 readings. So if the
Exactly.
zoning.
That's what I meant, yeah.
If the zoning fails, the plan of annexation. Ms. Brown, please call the roll.
And this is for just the plan of services.
Plan of services, this is resolution 20R PS 18 for the plan of services.
Ms. Averwater? Aye. Ms. Skills Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell?
Abstain.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye. We now need to consider resolution 22RA 18. This is for the annexation.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Please call the roll.
Ms. Averwater? Aye. Ms. Skills Harris?
No.
Mr. Maxwell?
Abstain.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye. All right, we now need to hold a public hearing, and this is for the zoning of 68.25 acres.
Thank you, Mayor. This is for the companion zoning request for the same property, and bear with me as I get to the map once again. It's the same property to be zoned to PRD simultaneous with annexation. PRD being Planned Residential District, which, as I explained to people who call in, is a plan-specific district. And what is in the pattern book is the guiding document for the development regarding layout, architecture, lot size, amenities, and so on and so forth. The property is currently in the county and is requested to be zoned PRD simultaneous with annexation. The surrounding land uses and zoning in the area, of course, the property directly to the north, the Rockvale school campuses located in the unincorporated county, and then also across Highway 99, the Rockvale Meadows subdivision, a single-family subdivision located in the unincorporated county. And there are a number of larger single-family residential lots along Highway 99 to the south of the subject property as well. To the north of the subject property, further north of the Rockvale school campuses, is the Carlton Landing subdivision, which is located in the city limits and is zoned RS10, single-family residential with minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet. That's on the northwest side of Highway 99. And on the southeast side of Highway 99, a little bit further down the road, is the Salem Landing subdivision, which is zoned RS6, single-family residential with a minimum lot size of 6,000 square feet, as well as Salem Landing Townhomes, which is zoned RSA2, single-family residential attached, suburban townhouse style. The adopted Murfreesboro 2035 comprehensive plan does show the property as the rural undeveloped character. That was adopted in 2017. However, we are in the process of undertaking an update to the future land use map. And with the existence of city sewer directly adjacent to the property, available to serve the property, the update to our future land use map reflects the reality of that sanitary sewer directly adjacent to the subject property, and is calling out the property as being in the suburban residential land use character, which is approximately 4 units per acre and under. So the proposed development with 2.6 dwelling units per acre does fall well within the density range of the suburban residential land use character that is proposed for the property. Staff is supportive of the zoning request because it does propose a single-family residential detached development with larger lots. The lots range from 6,000 square feet on the smaller end to upwards of 15,000 square feet on the larger end. There are 149 total lots in the development that will be greater than 10,000 square feet, so it's a relatively low-density development. And it's consistent with that suburban residential land use character that is in our proposed update to the future land use map. There is ample open space and amenities located within the development. Mr. Taylor will go over those amenities in his presentation. The single-family residential detached uses and lot sizes are consistent with other residential uses in the area in that they are all single-family residential detached. And these are larger lot sizes for developments that we see in the city limits. The subject property does have immediate access to city sanitary sewer, and it will have to participate in the overall Creek Sanitary Sewer Assessment District, which will have a charge of $1,000 assessed in addition to the standard sewer connection fees for each single-family unit. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on this matter on April the 6th and deferred action. One of the reasons they deferred action was so that the developer could hold a neighborhood meeting to further meet with the neighbors and discuss the proposed development. The neighborhood meeting was held on May the 2nd. Planning Commission took this item back up on May the 18th under old business and then voted to recommend its approval to the City Council. Mr. Taylor will get up here in a moment to give you an overview of his proposed request, including the proposed improvements along Highway 99 that his client would endeavor to construct as a function of this development. Be happy to answer any questions before or after the public hearing.
Any questions for Mr. Blomley? Mr. Taylor.
Thank you, Matthew. Matt Taylor of SEC. I've accompanied tonight by Mr. Wes Patterson and Jackson Nichols, both of Patterson Homes, the applicant on the project, as well as Mr. Greg Gamble of Gamble Design Collaborative, land planner, landscape architect on the project. I do have a brief presentation on what we have called Riley. As Mr. Blomley said, it's about a 68-acre site along the eastern side of Highway 99. It's mostly wooded today. It is directly across the street from the Rockville Elementary and directly to the south of Rockville High and Middle School campus, and is highlighted here in the pink and white. We have excellent access to utilities. We have water and gas and electric along Highway 99. We have sanitary sewer at our northeast corner of our property as well. Zoning in the areas, some institutional as well as some PRD in the county, and then city RS10 and RS6 to the north, as Mr. Blomley indicated. The site today drains mainly from east to west before it crosses underneath Rockville or Highway 99. The existing site is heavily wooded, has a lot of rock, as you can see here. Some existing pictures of the area. This is an existing home inside of Rockville Meadows. This is a home directly adjoining our property on the east side of Highway 99. And then this is the access into, the southern access into the elementary school. This is looking north toward Murfreesboro along Highway 99, so our project area and high school, middle school will be to the right, elementary to the left. And then this would be looking back toward Eagleville. Our project would be to the left of this picture. You can see that left turn lane that exists today in Highway 99 that we will be extending several hundred feet further south that I'll show in more detail in a moment. We have proposed 182 detached homes, no townhouses, no apartments on this property. And so that gives a density of just under 2.7 units to the acre, so relatively low density development. We have scattered those or divided those up between alley loaded lots, front load and side load lots, referencing the garages. All of our owners here will be a member of an HOA. That HOA will enforce our restrictive covenants, collect dues, and maintain our common spaces. We will also have sidewalks along both sides of all of our streets. One unique element to this plan is that we'll have street trees between the sidewalk and the curb. We have that in some locations in Murfreesboro, but it's not an overabundance, so that will be very unique and help with the streetscape of our project. And then we've done all this while providing underground utilities and preserving approximately 20% of our site toward permanent open space. This is a view from Highway 99, looking into the site, well landscaped as you enter. You won't see any garages that face Highway 99. You'll see only homes. And so this is a true rendering. These homes that you're looking at are examples of homes that Patterson has built elsewhere and will build here. It's not just an artist or an architect's thoughts. You can even start to see how we've widened out our corner lots to introduce those wrapped porches to create interest on the non-front side. All of our homes will be at least or no more than 35 feet tall, which is directly in line with the zoning ordinance. They'll start at about 1,650 square feet and go up to over 3,700 square feet in size. Again, these will all be on individual lots of record, so they will not have any townhomes, HPR, or apartments here. We will use a consistent material palette throughout: brick, stone, cement board. The only vinyl we'll have be in the trim and soffit areas. However, we will not be creating cookie cutter homes here. We'll have a lot of true variety, as you'll see in the upcoming pictures. The alley load lots we have termed as cottage lots. We have 38 of those. We have planned for those to be up close to Highway 99, as well as on the northern portion of our project. Those are shown in the dark and the light green areas here. The lot sizes will start at a minimum of 6,000 square feet in size and go up to over 13,000 square feet in size. All of our homes here will have at least a 2-car garage. There will be an option for that to be attached versus detached, as you can see in the examples. We also have a 3-car garage option that is entirely up to the buyer of each individual home. And then in addition to the garage, we will also have at least 2 cars outside of each garage along the alley. And then close by, we also have on-street parking for any visitors that may come to each house as well. We have very intentionally on these lots requested a very shallow front setback of 10 feet. We want that house pulled close to the street to create that streetscape. That combined with the street trees, the sidewalks, the on-street parking, and the landscaping that Patterson does own lot, as they build the homes, will create a very special environment, very unique, very aesthetically pleasing. These are some of the homes that Patterson has built elsewhere and will continue to build here. So a true variety. You can see that side, that wrapped porch on the right. And then just a lot of difference, a lot of detail, good quality materials, nice roof lines with these homes. The Riverwalk makes up the majority of our development with 132 of these. These will range in size from a minimum of 10,000 square feet in size to over 16,000 square feet in size. And they're highlighted again in the light and dark greens. Here we have requested for the front of the home to be a minimum of 25 feet setback, while the garage will be at least a 10-foot recess from that, so we can still have 4 cars in the driveway for outside of the garage for each home. We've requested that front setback to, again, continue that streetscape presence. Further, we have explicitly stated in our book that porches can extend into that front setback like is allowed inside the zoning ordinance already. And here are a couple of examples of potential Riverwalk homes. And then the estate homes, they're at the southern end or the rear of the project. There's 12 of these. They'll start at a minimum of 13,000 square feet in size and go up from there. We've requested the exact same setbacks on these. These are a minimum of 80 feet wide, so if that home buyer elects a floor plan that is a side entry garage, that will be accommodated, or if it's a front entry option that they choose, we'll continue to recess that for the in driveway parking. And then we continue the same material palette, same interest level of architecture across these lots as we've had for the remainder. Amenities, instead of centralizing one amenity lot, we tried to spread these throughout, provide each individual space with kind of its own unique programming. While it's a relatively small community at 182 homes, it will have a variety of personalities or variety of interest, and so we've tried to accommodate those. The first one of those will be in the northwest corner, shown here in yellow. This we have planned for a large, unprogrammed open play area. And so we see that little Johnny might come here and play flag football or frisbee or have a home run derby with his buddies while his parents grill out with his buddies' parents underneath the pavilion. So we think this can be a very active area, have a lot of activity. And then in the northeastern portion of the project, we plan for a little different atmosphere. It's more of a linear park. We plan for a little younger child maybe coming here to come play on the playground, but we've also provided seating areas as well as that open structured area in case there is a younger child and an older child. And then the southern portion of the project, we plan for more seating and walking trails. So again, a different atmosphere, a different element to attract, maybe it's the same people coming to all of them. They just come different days depending on their mood that day. And then lastly, we have these passive open spaces. So the darker red-ish color here, we tend to leave those very natural areas. There's a lot of topo in these areas, a lot of trees in these areas. And so we'll leave those as natural as possible. This is where, I think I've said, this is where kids will go be kids. They'll go hike through the woods, adventure, maybe build a tree house or something here. I'm not sure, but we want to leave these natural. The more hotter pink along Highway 99 in the upper right-hand corner of this is our main stormwater facility for the project. This is a very important area for us since it's our entrance to the development. And so we've spent a lot of time on this design, the aesthetics. So we're going to berm this up along Highway 99 so that you cannot see it down into the pond as you drive by. We're going to landscape this heavily with both trees and shrubs. And then on the home side of this, we're going to create kind of a linear park environment with trees on both sides of the sidewalk and an abundance of landscaping. We do have 2 entrances on the Highway 99. They will each have their own development entrance sign to create that kind of welcome home feel, create a sense of community as people arrive home. Access, we spend a lot of time with staff, a lot of times with neighbors, reviewing and coming up with the best access plan. And so we do have 2 access points on the Highway 99 shown here. Originally, we had one that aligned with the elementary school. Through discussions with staff, we have unaligned those to arrive at this particular design. Our original traffic study, which was separate from the school study I discussed earlier, addressed these entrances and addressed the capacity of Highway 99. And so we're going to extend a left turn lane all across our frontage, similar to that in blue, and then each of those 2 entrances will have right turn lane, so anybody approaching from the Eagleville side can get out to the through lane and get into our development without slowing others. And then we have also, through the process, added a pedestrian connection from our development over to the southern entrance of the high school and middle school campus that we'll construct inside the right-of-way of Highway 99 that will not be directly adjoining the shoulder. Will be offset from that. We have specifically outlined our exceptions that we've requested inside of our booklet. These are mainly to achieve a design preference. And so we think that all of these create a better design, a better neighborhood, a better streetscape. And so we hope that you agree. And then, as Mr. Blomley said, we did host a neighborhood meeting after the Planning Commission. I think we had 20 or 30. I don't remember that exact number, but had good dialogue. We have met individually, both commissioner as well as other residents in the area to help to try to address some concerns, and we'll continue to do so throughout the project. So I'll be happy to answer any questions now or after the hearing.
Any questions for Mr. Taylor before the public hearing? All right, thank you, Mr. Taylor. All right, we'll need to open the public hearing for the zoning request of this 68.25 acres. Anyone wishing to speak for or against, please come to the podium.
Wish I could get as much time to explain to y'all why it's wrong as you get to sell you why it's right. David Ragsdale, 6971 Highway 99, Rockwell. Number 1 is some of the setback exemptions that are being asked for. Again, I go back to zoning ordinances that this city council has approved. What is the point in approving a zoning ordinance with specific setbacks if every time that a developer comes and asks y'all for an approval for a development, y'all let them have it? I hadn't been able to figure that one out. The other thing is parking. In those same zoning ordinances, says that they're supposed to have 4 parking spaces. In the plan that the developer has put together, they've got that they will make the residents park in the garage of the cottage units. I would like someone to tell me how anyone is going to make someone park in their garage. I don't know about anybody else in this room, but sometimes it's kind of hard to park in my garage because I store other things in there. The other thing is lot sizes. You know, everybody keeps going back to the 2.66 lots per acre. Well, I wished I could show you the lots. I wish I had a PowerPoint prepared so I could show you the lots around this property. They're large lots to the tune of 3/4 to an acre to 5 acres. I live on 10. Our neighbors live on 22. In y'all's comprehensive plan, it makes multiple mentions of developing properties consistent with the surrounding properties. This is not consistent with the surrounding properties. Again, I urge this council to vote nay on this rezoning amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Ragsdale. Mr. Reed.
No, I hadn't gone away. Yeah, I have to say, when I look at this property right here, I remember it back as a child. I guess you could say riding on a load of cotton heading in here to Murfreesboro to a cotton gin, because there was cotton that did grow at the lower part of this 68 acres, because that was the only part you could farm. If you go up that hillside right there, and I see Councilman Wright, he knows that property, fairly rocky. In fact, you'll go in there and you'll find gullies in there. You'll find sinkholes up that hill. You go to the top of that hill and you look over the top of it, you'll find the quarry where all the rock was quarried out to build those schools that are out there. Pretty rocky, pretty rough land, and I think whenever the developers get into that property, they're going to find out the number of 182 houses may be reduced. Now, I'm not making my determination based on the fact of unknown. Since 2010, except for about 2 years there, I've served on the Rutherford County Planning Commission. I currently am the chairman of the Rutherford County Planning Commission, and I have to look at this as what we would do with it. And I know for the fact we would not do this many houses. And when I stood before you a while ago, if you remember, I said that many of the people that come before you in April said, we didn't say not do development there. We're just saying the number of houses and what you're trying to put right there is not what we recommend out there in that area. I'm before you tonight as a member of the Rockville community, as a part of that district out there. Yeah, I'm a county commissioner out there. I've represented them for 8 years, and I'm going to do it for 4 more years. But what I'm speaking to you now as a native of that area out there, and I know what's going out there, and the people are wanting something to look similar to what they have. This does not look like anything that's out that way. When those people come out there to live on those 68 acres, they will not have a Murfreesboro address. They'll have a Rockville address. It'll be 37153. It'll be 68 acres sitting out there, not in the city of Murfreesboro, because it does not touch it. You've just voted right here to go non-contiguous. It doesn't touch it. I've heard your services. You've listed your services. You know where they're suggesting their fire department comes from? Veterans Parkway. Comes over on Cason Lane. But I want to tell you this, as a county commissioner and as chairman of our public safety committee here at Rutherford County, I have already told our chief, we're currently building a public safety building directly across from where you're getting ready to build. I've already told our fire chief that you see something over there, if you see one of these on fire or a problem, we will respond. I want you to understand that. We don't care where it's at. If we can help, we will do that. That's what we want to do. We'll work with the city of Murfreesboro wherever we can, whenever there's problems like this. But what I'm saying, we're here to work with you. But I'm just telling you, this is not the place to put that many houses. The water problems we already have with the school over there, we had a baseball field out there. They called it Dripping Springs whenever they'd come to play because third base had a spring running through it. We had to build a underground waterway to get it out of there. So we have water problems out there from when we built out there, and I can only imagine where all that water would go. I know you have large retention ponds to hold possibly that water for 50-year flood. But we already have over in Rockville Meadows right now that any more water that is added to Rockville Meadows we've got a major problem when flooding comes, just to let you know, and that's why I have a concern about the building.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the zoning request? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. And we'll now consider on first reading ordinance 22 OZ 18. I've got several questions from watching Planning Commission and actually y'all's Public Works Commission, but if other council members have some.
Can I make a couple comments? So, Commissioner Reed just said, I know this property pretty well. My family owns 326 acres. That's probably, I could ride a bike to this property from it. So, yeah, I know it pretty well. I'm looking at the aerial trying to do a measurement right now. I'm not getting it to work. When we look at stuff, whether it's at the Planning Commission or the council, this is the exact kind of development that I wish every single one of the developments that came in front of us looked like. Less than 3 units per acre, all single-family detached, well amenitized, treed lots. I mean, this is like, in my opinion, a no-brainer development when you're talking about what is your vision of Murfreesboro, what do you want upcoming developments to look like. This is exactly what I would picture Murfreesboro wanting to look like. I've agreed with Mr. Reed. They may get in there and tear some rock in and find out they can't do 180 units, which would make the neighbors even happier because then you're getting less density. But when I'm thinking about what a neighborhood in Murfreesboro that I would like to look at, this is exactly it. And the county's approved developments across the street, down the road, all similar size unit-wise. And now we're approving, I would hope we're going to approve one right here.
My questions, and I want to, with Mr. Reed's indulgence, I'd like to ask the council to suspend the rules because I'd like to ask Commissioner Reed some questions if the council would be okay with that.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Anyone have any issues with that? Commissioner Reed, if you'd come to the podium, I just have a couple of questions. Mr. Gore, I'm not going to get it. Yes, sir.
I think there technically needs to be a vote.
Okay, can we have a vote, please?
Ms. Averwater?
Aye.
Ms. Skills Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye. Commissioner Reed, thank you for coming. We don't get to see county commissioners very often, so.
We have a whole lot of city councilmen coming over to the county commission.
I don't think I can't remember us ever going to. Maybe we have. But I'm not going to go into the sewer. I think that is an overall discussion on how we ran sewer out there, and that sewer, that's going to have to be another discussion later on collection, and that's actually our worst performing sewer assessment district that we have as a city. I think, Mr. Gore, how much was that sewer cost, and how much do we still owe?
Well, I was a consultant when we did that study, and I won't go into too much detail, but that sewer was sized to handle 3,852 single-family units in the Rockville area. And we did specify for the residential components 2.5 units per acre. So far, we've had 142 single-family unit equivalents tied to that sewer. So our final change order was in September of 2008. So that's what is that? That's 20 or
15 years.
15 years, 14 years.
Yeah.
So it did not perform. And
so
that sewer, called the Rockville sewer, began back in 2006. Nancy Allen and Tommy Bragg signing the agreement.
Yeah, I was on the commission at that time. I hate to admit that, or the council at the time. But so my question is, and Commissioner Reed, I think the thing that's a little different with the council members than a commission, the commission is we don't represent just districts. We represent everyone. So we have to look at the city as a whole. And so I think also as a council member, we try to be consistent when we look at other areas of our community. And so what I'm having trouble reconciling, back in March, the county commission, I think you were at the groundbreaking, the county back on the Burgess property approved 1,200 homes in an area that's not the city. The city actually, I remember going through and talking about this, we actually declined extending sewer there because we didn't feel like we could extend sewer out there. And so that's on a 2-lane road, Highway 96, very similar to this. And so I'm having trouble reconciling what is different with 1,200 homes in that area than 180 homes in this area. And I think that passed Planning Commission unanimously. I think it passed the commission unanimously. So 1,200 homes on Highway 96, 180 homes on Highway 99, and I'm trying to understand what the difference is between those developments.
I could give you some of that because I was on the Planning Commission when all that was brought to us, and there was a big discussion about, okay, this is pretty large, what we're talking about and what we're trying to do. It's the type of development that one is right there, as well as the way that they are dealing with the water, the way they're dealing with everything within that development. That development also gave 5 acres to the county for a fire station. We're getting ready to put one of our public safety buildings out there. It'll be on Highway 96. So there was a little bit of difference to that. What brought attention to this one is where it is located, the way it is located to these schools, the way it's already, where we already have major problems right there. We get continuous calls and concerns about the traffic. And yes, I heard your discussion about placing the schools on a 2-lane road out there, and your concerns about putting the high school there as well as the middle school. As I've tried to tell people on that, when we first put that elementary school on Highway 99, that was a farm-to-market road. At that time, nobody went down that road that much.
Right.
I mean, it was primarily that. Perfect place to put it. When they decided to put the middle school, it was pretty much the same way. Well, when they built the middle school, a little foresight from a school board was, hey, we got this back here. While we've got it here, we'll put the pad down. They already had the pad down back when they built that middle school for a high school, not knowing if they'd ever do a high school. So it was there. That's why they went ahead and built that school there, and it is on a main highway.
I think what my point, though, is that on our sewer assessment district, there's been 142 homes that have connected to that sewer.
Yeah.
And this is a 180-unit development. There's 1,200 units that the county approved in an area that there's no subdivisions besides Royal Glen in that area. And I just think quite honestly, it's a little hypocritical that we say in the Highway 96 area it's okay to put 1,200 homes that the city said we can't service out there, and the county approves that, but yet we're here fighting or fussing over 180 homes. And so the other things I would say, it's my understanding that Rockville Meadows, the property that's adjacent to Rockville Meadows, I think you've had the discussion with them that there's another 200 homes that are going to go next to Rockville Meadows. And the density of that property next to Rockville Meadows is very consistent with this density.
No, it's going to be less than that.
I think we're 2.6 per acre, and this is going to be about 2.1 or 2.2. So we're talking about 0.4 units per acre, but very close density.
Yeah, but it's going to be less. But of course, you got a lot more acres too.
But that's another 200 homes that are going to go out there, correct? So my last question is, are you thinking that we should, and you would be recommending a moratorium in that area, that there should be nothing else built in that Rockville area?
No, sir, but I can tell you that whenever Plan Rutherford comes out with our comprehensive plan, we're looking at some changes as far as what we do within county-wide, not just Rockville, as far as what we're trying to do, as far as growth, as far as what we're trying to do overall. We don't have final plans. We don't have anything. We've done the public hearings all around the county. And when you said, I'm here representing these people, and we operate differently from city council, and you have to look at everybody within the city of Murfreesboro, I look at everybody within the county also. Like I said, I serve on public safety committee. I'm on these other committees as well. Everything I do also thinks about these other counties too. The concern that I think what brought me more into this is that, hey, we just all of a sudden reached out here and done this. And I think the reason it caught my attention more here, it seems like as we march down that highway, we're getting more into the situation of what we're seeing here at that high school. If you come on down that highway now, we have now just put in Salem Landing. we've got Carlton Landing right there.
Right.
And I believe I showed that to Mr. Huddleston the day we met. We pulled up the an aerial as where you come in to Veterans Parkway from Highway 99. And I said, pull that up, and I want y'all to see something that we're seeing today, right now, since Salem Landing has come in and since Carlton Landing has come in. I said, tell me what you see there at that intersection. I said, tell me that left turn lane to go back towards 840. How many cars can you put in that turn lane? 3. That's what that turn lane is, right there at that intersection. In the morning, it's not the school where you back up anymore now. You back up now from Veterans all the way back to Pusher Place.
Yeah.
You've got mothers dropping off children that are coming back to Murfreesboro, and they're backed up, stopped, trying to get back on there to turn. My concern, and I think it is as a member of the Planning Commission, is we're building, and these guys do a great job. I see Matt often over there in ours too, and they're good at what they do. Our problem today is that we're building and building, but what we're doing is our infrastructure out here is having a problem handling it.
Yeah.
It's sort of like we're filling up the bottle, but now it's running over the side.
Mr. Reed, I don't disagree with anything you said, but the part where I get frustrated is when we have the opportunity to partner together as a city and a county, like the interlocal agreement that that the city taxpayers said that we would spend $500,000 to help kickstart the program to help the residents of Rockville, and that doesn't even make it to the commission. It gets shot down in a committee.
Then we had to spend $500,000 also.
Well, and I agree with that. I think I even went back, Commissioner Reed, and I'm going to cut this off here.
Well, let me say something about the $400,000. It was also that they come up with an idea to fix the schools out there. Well, we gave that to the school board.
Yeah.
And they said, well, $400,000, can you think what else we can spend $400,000 right now? So
it sounds like that would be a good investment. But my point is, and I even went back over the last 8 years, and I'm very thankful. I think Mayor Carr really wants to participate with the cities and us work together. But there's not been a state road project that the county has taken over on major thoroughfares since Mayor Burgess helped us with County Farm Road and with even going back to Halls Hill Pike. So what I think the council would agree with this. We would love to partner with the county to help Highway 99 and use our resources as an engineering department to be able to get that taken care of, like what we're doing on 99 right now. So,
well, Mayor, I will take that back to him.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Reed. Council members, I just don't see, and look, try to be consistent, but I've spent more time on this development over the last 2 or 3 weeks going through and reading and going back and watching Planning Commission and watching the Public Works and watching the County Commission. I don't see how this is inconsistent with anything that's not happened all over in other areas of the county already. And I think disapproving a project like this with an applicant that's clearly got a good plan is just not consistent. And as long as I'm up here, I'm going to try to be consistent with what we do as a council. So that's my 2 cents. Or I should say that's my dollar's worth.
All right, I got one more comment also.
I've got a comment too.
Yeah. Austin.
Oh, go ahead, Sean.
If you think back to early 2000s, when the city approved Berkshire was in the middle of nowhere compared to the city of Murfreesboro. I mean, it was out. Now you think Berkshire, you think, hey, that's right in the middle of Blackman, but when it was approved, it was out. And now look at it 15, 20 years later, 25 years later, it's an asset to the city. Just like this project will be an asset to the city once it's completed. And so that's where I'm at.
Austin.
You know, I have nothing against the development. I think it's a beautiful development. I would live there. I'm like Sean. I'd love to see that across the street from me. The issue I have is the same issues that everybody has brought up. You got a 2-lane road that we really don't know when TDOT is going to address it. We hope they'll address it, but hope is not a strategy. You know, we could be stuck with that 2-lane road for the foreseeable future. We're short 39 police officers, and now we're going to ask police officers to cover that area, that particular subdivision, answer that call. And, you know, from a city school standpoint, I get it that we've got capacity. I saw that in the notes. Those, you know, you go out to Rockville right now, they're in portables already. They've trucked in more portables, and they're going to continue to truck them in. So I've got no issue with the development. I just wish the infrastructure was there from a road standpoint and other things.
Any other comments?
I mean, I feel the same way now as I did at Planning Commission, and I was in favor of it then. And I reviewed the plan of services closely, and it is a tragedy that we're short with city police officers, but I do think that the benefit here outweighs the cost of having police officers go down Highway 99. I agree with Mr. Wright. It's a great looking neighborhood, and it's low density, and it's good product. I drove through one of the Patterson Homes communities, I think it was in Williamson County, and it's a nice product. It's nicer than a lot of what we have here currently. So my opinion hasn't changed since Planning Commission.
No, I didn't have one. Thank you.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Ms. Brown, please call the roll.
Ms. Saverwater? Aye. Ms. Scales Harris?
No.
Mr. Maxwell?
Abstain.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye. All right, we'll move to item 25, zoning property along Blackman Road and Veterans Parkway. Mr. Blomley.
Thank you, Mayor McFarland. Our next item is a rezoning request along Veterans Parkway and Blackman Road. This is brought to you by the applicant, the City Administration Department. This is property that is owned by, the larger tract is owned by Vanderbilt. It's the location of their proposed hospital in the Blackman community. And there are 7 parcels that are owned by Donald McDonald, located at the northwest corner of Blackman Road and Lyle McDonald Court. The request from the administration is to zone these in the Gateway Design Overlay District number 1. I think our city administration department and our city planning department are very aware of the importance of this interchange and of the growth and development that we anticipate occurring at this interchange, and we envision it as a gateway into our city. It's already a gateway into our city. So what we're trying to do is to protect that gateway and protect that investment into the city. As you know, the city and Middle Tennessee Electric are involved in a land swap that was a subject of 2 more rezoning requests that we'll be scheduling for a public hearing. The city property, the current city property to the north, located at the corner of Burnt Knob and Blackman Road, is identified on our future land use map as an economic development opportunity. And so with that, we are proposing that it be zoned Gateway Design Overlay District number 1 as well. So what we're really trying to do is go for a consistent aesthetic in the area. The Gateway Design Overlay District holds developments to a higher design standard, both architecturally and from a landscape standpoint, and for numerous other design criteria. The Gateway Design Overlay District also restricts out certain uses that may not be appropriate to an area that we would consider a gateway to the city. So I think with this being a new gateway to the city, it's very appropriate, in staff's opinion, that the Gateway Design Overlay District be applied to these properties. In addition, the West Lawn PUD, which is located across Veterans Parkway and to the south of the subject property, even though it's not zoned Gateway Design Overlay District, that PUD specifically requires that developments in that PUD adhere to the Gateway Design Overlay District design standards. So I think we're shooting for a similar aesthetic, a similar high level of quality in the area. Mr. Sam Huddleston, as the representative of the administration department who filed this application, has made contact with both Vanderbilt and with Mr. McDonald. And I believe Mr. McDonald actually spoke at the public hearing, but I don't believe he expressed any objection during that public hearing. The Planning Commission conducted a public hearing and recommended the approval of this rezoning. The base zoning of commercial highway and commercial fringe would not be affected. Those commercial designations are consistent with the update to our future land use map. What the Gateway Design Overlay District will do will just ensure a high level of quality for the development on those properties. I'll be happy to answer any questions either before or after the public hearing. And Mr. Huddleston, of course, is here if you have any questions for him as the applicant.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Blomley?
Matthew, I brought this up at the Planning Commission level. Are there representatives from Vanderbilt here tonight that they were not at Planning Commission? Okay.
Mr. Jeff Hooper is here. He's the civil engineer. Mr. Hooper and several representatives from Vanderbilt itself are actually here as well. Okay. So they may have something to say, they may not, but they're here.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any questions for Mr. Blomley? All right, we'll need to hold a public hearing for this zoning request for 89.2 acres. Anyone wishing to speak for or against, please come to the public hearing. Or excuse me, please come to the podium. All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. We'll now consider on first reading Ordinance 22 OZ 32.
So moved.
So moved.
Motion and second. Ms. Brown, please call the roll.
Ms. Averwater?
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye. All right, we look forward to y'all coming in the community. Well, and I'll say that after second reading in whenever our next meeting. Don't want to be too anticipatory here, so we'll see y'all at our next meeting. All right, so we have zoning for property along Medical Center Parkway and West College Street. Mr. Blomley.
Thank you, Mayor McFarland. This request is also coming to us from Mr. Huddleston. Mr. Huddleston has been a frequent flyer this year on making rezoning. This is for property. All of the properties that are identified on the map in green are properties that the city actually owns. They're all zoned mixed use and Gateway Design Overlay District number 3. And so if you follow me here, there is the fire station. And so this is the property in between the river and the fire station here, and then following the river along the backside of the golf course, as well as this parcel here, which is the site of the old landfill. Those of you who may walk on the Gateway Island Trail know that recognize that with the walking path that goes around there, and as well as the little tubes that stick out of the ground that release methane, right, Mr. Huddleston? So we are requesting, or the administration department is requesting, that the Gateway Design Overlay District number 3 be removed from this property. The utility of this property for development is very little, with the existence of the landfill on the northern property, as well as the existence of the floodplain and floodway on the southernmost properties. Really, the only utility or the only function that this property could serve is potentially some public facilities. And what we're attempting to do is to remove, in this case, remove the additional hurdles and standards from these properties, since they're very limited with respect to development, so that any public facilities that might be built on those properties, whether the overflow parking areas, restroom facilities, do not have to adhere to the more strict Gateway Design Overlay District regulations. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on this request on August the 3rd and recommended its approval to the City Council. Be happy to answer any questions before or after our public hearing.
Any questions for Mr. Blomley? All right, seeing none, we'll hold a public hearing for this rezoning request for 51.9 acres. Anyone wishing to speak for or against, please come to the podium. All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. We'll now consider on first reading ordinance 22-OZ33.
So moved.
Second.
Bunch of motions and seconds. Please call the roll.
Ms. Averwater?
Aye.
Ms. Skels Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye. All right, we're now looking at mending the zoning ordinance. This is item 27. Mr. Blomley.
Thank you, Mayor McFarland. Our last public hearing tonight is with regards to Chart 3 in our zoning ordinance, which is, you know, if you really need a good cure for insomnia, try to read Chart 3 at night. It's our parking space and aisle design requirements. So it's we're really fortunate that we have a great new engineer on staff. Where's Mr. Moore here? Mr. Moore in the back. Gabriel Moore, introduced him to the City Council. He and a number of our planners, including Ms. Green, who's sitting in back, worked on this, took tours of parking garages in Murfreesboro, Franklin, Nashville. And this really started out as an exercise in making sure that our parking space and aisle design requirements fit with parking structures, because we're starting to see more parking structures. And what it ended up being was a rewrite of Chart 3 to coincide with best practices in the industry. And Mr. Moore and Ms. Green did extensive work researching engineering manuals, surveying other communities. And so what I think we've done as a department is come up with a Chart 3 that better reflects the realities of 2022, the best practices of 2022, and it's also more user-friendly. There are less columns, more easier for folks like Mr. Taylor to interpret, and so we're excited about this. We're always looking to make improvements to our ordinance to make it more user-friendly. So with that being said, I'll be happy to answer any questions. Planning Commission recommended approval of this.
Okay.
On August the 3rd.
Any questions? All right, we'll need to hold this public hearing for this amendment to the zoning ordinance. Anyone wishing to speak for or against, please come to the podium. All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. We'll consider on first reading ordinance 22-031.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Ms. Averwater?
Aye.
Ms. Skels Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye. New commission member or new council members. Mr. Blomley, I just have two questions real quick. There's a team from Pennsylvania. What's the team whose coach is James Franklin?
I believe that'd be Penn State.
And they played who last weekend?
They played Auburn.
And what was their final score?
Now, don't quote me on this, but I think it was 41-12.
41-12. Okay. I just want to make sure that's on the record. Where did you graduate from, Mr. Blomley?
I graduated from Auburn University.
Okay. All right.
Eagle?
All right, we'll now move to sewer allocation variance. This is for Agri Park Drive, and this is for Arden Senior Living. That's a long-running, even going back to the national championship.
When Auburn makes the Final Four this year, I'll make sure that.
With our coach.
Yeah.
Which sport?
That's right. Yeah.
Basketball, not football.
Yeah. Mr. Barbie, good to see you.
Good to see you, Mayor McFarland. Good evening, Mayor McFarland and members of the City Council. Tonight I've got two sewer allocation variance requests here before you. The first request is by Arden Senior Living. This is a public inquiry has been initiated with the Planning Department for this development. It's a proposed independent senior living residential complex located along the east side of Agri Park Drive and north of Old Fort Parkway. Sorry, I'm trying to scroll through photos while I'm... The property is currently zoned commercial highway, which per the sewer allocation ordinance only allows 2.5 single-family units per acre of sewer capacity. The proposed development includes 166 dwelling units on 9.75 acres, or 9.7 acres, for a density of 17.03 dwelling units or single-family units per acre. This exceeds the allowable usage by approximately 14.6 single-family units per acre. According to the Murfreesboro Water Resources Department, the sanitary sewer collection system can convey the estimated sewer flows resulting from this development, and its request to vary from the density requirements. Staff supports this request and believes that the advantages of additional senior living housing, job creation, and tax revenue of greater benefit than the requested additional sewer capacity. In addition, considering the lack of interest in developing this property with commercial uses and the quality of the proposed development, staff believes that this proposed use is the highest and best use for the property. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Ms. Brown, please call the roll.
Ms. Saberwater?
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye. All right, we had the same sewer allocation variance for Highway 55 restaurant on Franklin Road.
Yes, sir. This is, as you stated, it's for Highway 55 restaurant along Franklin Road. It's located on the south side of Franklin Road, west of Covenant Boulevard, and north of Malachite Drive. The property is currently zoned commercial highway, which, again, per the zoning or per the sewer allocation ordinance, only allows for 2.5 single-family units per acre. The property is 0.996 acres, allowing only 2.49 single-family units. The anticipated usage is approximately 13.46 single-family units and will require a variance of approximately 11 single-family units. Sanitary sewer system can handle the increased flows for the proposed development, and staff does support this application and views the advantages of job creation and sales tax revenue of greater benefit than the requested additional sewer capacity. I believe there is a representative from Highway 55 Diner here tonight. We're here if you have questions for him, or I'm also available for questions as well.
Questions for Mr. Barbie?
It's going to be nice not having to drive 45 minutes for that hamburger. So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Please call the roll.
Should you abstain?
Yeah.
Ms. Saberwater?
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye. Mr. Blomley, Planning Commission recommendations for public hearings.
Yes, sir. We have 3 to schedule, and we are recommending a date of November the... War Eagle.
He said he was at the game.
Oh. Yep. God bless you.
I feel your pain. War Eagle. We have 3 to schedule, Mayor McFarland, and we're recommending a date of November the 3rd for those 3.
Can't believe we're already scheduling in November.
I know.
November the 3rd?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can we get a motion for the public hearings for November the 3rd?
Second.
Motion is second. Please call the roll.
Ms. Saberwater?
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
All right. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you for y'all's hard work. Especially, I see Margaret Ann back there. Am I missing any other planning staff members? Mr. McKnight? Marina, good to see y'all. And then, of course, our new addition back there. All right, we'll move to the contract for renovations to fire station. Michelle.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. I'm here on behalf of staff to seek approval for the construction contract for renovations for fire station number 3 at Hopgood Elementary School in an amount of $659,777. Bids were solicited, and Tim Rice Construction was the lowest responsible bidder. Fire station number 3 was part of an assessment of city facilities for American Disabilities Act compliance. The additions and improvements have been identified and are needed to meet these requirements. The new addition to the building will include new ADA compliant bathrooms, a laundry room, a decontamination area, and locker rooms. Also included are upgrades to electrical, plumbing, and HVAC systems. The funding for this project is from ADA improvement grants in the amount of $477,700 and the remaining funds of $182,077 from fiscal year 19, 21, and 22 CIP budgets. I will be happy to take any questions at this time for this project and contract.
It's going to improve their sleeping quarters.
There's not any improvements to the sleeping quarters at this time.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Please call the roll.
Ms. Averwater?
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye. All right, we'll move to the contract for Emergency Operations Center renovations.
Again, staff recommends for the construction project contract approval for the Police Department Emergency Operations Center improvements. Bids were also solicited, and Rock City Construction was the lowest responsible bidder in the amount of $336,925,000. The improvements are as follows: new security access doorways and 2 American Disability Act compliant bathrooms in the EOC secured area. The new secured doorways are to limit unauthorized personnel and the general public from having access to vital information and meet criminal justice system information requirements. Total cost is funded through FY21 CIP budget, and I can answer any questions pertaining to this project at this time.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Please call the roll.
Ms. Averwater?
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye. All right, we now have health benefits service agreements. Thank you, Scott.
Hi, good evening again. The Employee Services Department is requesting your approval to move forward with contract agreements for benefit consultants and providers for our health benefit services and insurance for the city's 2023 benefit plan year. The organizations selected were based upon their qualifications under the RFCSP process. Prices came in at or below our current prices for the same level of service. These organizations were selected for 3-year contracts. Lockton was selected as our benefits consultant. The contract price is $60,000 per year. This maintains pricing at the same level of service as the current year. National Insurance Services of Wisconsin Insurance Trust was selected to provide long-term disability coverage. Contract price is $158,636 per year, and this is $27,450 less per year for the same level of service as the current year. Virgin Pulse was selected as our wellness provider. The contract price is $48,500 per year. This is $8,830.72 less per year for a better level of service than the current year. Task, Total Administrative Service Corporation, was selected to administer our FSA and our HRA benefits. Contract price is $14,256 per year. This comes in $4,275.80 less per year for the same level of service for the current year. Schools Insurance Fund of Wisconsin was selected to provide short-term disability benefits. This benefit will be 100% funded by employee contributions at a lower price for the same level of service in the current year. Blue Cross Blue Shield of Tennessee was selected for our vision insurance benefits. This benefit will be 100% funded by employee contributions at a lower price for the same level of service for the current year, The city's expense of $281,392 per year is funded by the city's insurance fund. This is $40,555 less per year for the same level of service as the current year. I'm available if you have any questions.
Any questions?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Please call the roll.
Ms. Averwater?
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye. All right, we have, I'm sorry.
Yeah. We must really have a competitive market out there because saving all those thousands of dollars.
We're just that good.
Yeah.
And come to our health fair tomorrow, too.
Yeah. It's very, very reputable people you all selected. That's great.
Thank you.
All right, we have the agreement with Faro Technologies for the purchase of 3D scene mapping equipment. Chief Bowen.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. For your consideration this evening is a request to purchase mapping equipment from Faro Technologies. The mapping station will be utilized by staff to map crime scenes and accident scenes while reducing personnel hours spent on locations. This will be the second Faro utilized by MPD and will allow the processing of more than one scene at a time while also providing redundancy should one of the systems go down. Total purchase cost of the system will be $70,817 that will be funded from the felony fund.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Please call the roll.
Ms. Saberwater?
Aye.
Ms. Skels Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye. All right, we have a contract with Ford of Murfreesboro for the purchase of new police vehicles.
Yes, sir. For your consideration is a request to purchase 66 new police vehicles from Ford of Murfreesboro. During April of 2022, council approved the purchase of 25 marked vehicles and 2 unmarked trucks, all 2022 models. 2 trucks were received, but the order for the 25 marked vehicles were canceled by the manufacturer. The 25 marked vehicles will need to be reordered at a total cost of $959,025, and this will be for 2023 models, which is an increase of $105,125 from the previous quote. We're also requesting an additional purchase of 30 marked vehicles at a total cost of $1,150,830. The total cost for all 66 vehicles is $2,525,116, which will be funded by the American Rescue Plan Act. At this time, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Please call the roll.
Ms. Saberwater?
Aye.
Ms. Skels Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye. All right, we have an agreement with Code 1 Safety for procurement of AEDs.
Yes, sir. For your consideration is a request to purchase 225 automated external defibrillators from Code 1 Safety. Code 1 is an authorized distributor for Zoll, and these items are available for purchase through the Metro Nashville-Davidson County contract with Zoll Medical Corporation. We've consulted with MFRD on these items to make sure that they were compatible with the equipment that they are currently using, and the total purchase cost or the total purchase price is $328,985.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Please call the roll.
Ms. Saberwater?
Aye.
Ms. Skels Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye. All right, well, thank you, Chief. We'll move to the purchase of 2 Brush Hawk knuckle loader trucks. I think we have a fill-in for Mr. Gossett tonight.
Hi, my name is Luke Murphy from Solid Waste Department. Russell could not be here tonight, so I'm standing in for him for the purchase of 2 Brush Hog Knuckle Boom Loader trucks. The proposed purchases are needed for the Solid Waste Department operations. The equipment is budgeted in the CIP funds for FY22. These trucks will replace 2 older trucks, resulting in cleaner collection, less maintenance, and increased operator morale. This equipment is used in a daily collection of brush and limb debris. The equipment items will be purchased through a Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing Program contract, which provides the most competitive prices for the items the department needs. State statute and council resolutions authorize cooperative purchases. The expense is $391,729, which is funded by the FY22 Solid Waste CIP budget.
Any questions?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Please call the roll.
Ms. Saberwater?
Aye.
Ms. Skels Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye, well done. All right, we'll move to an agreement between TDOT and the city regarding the I-24 Smart Corridor Plan.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. TDOT has been deploying the infrastructure over the past 4 years for an integrated corridor management system for the I-24 Smart Corridor project. Implementation of the first phases of this system is scheduled for early 2023. Partnering with TDOT through this ICM system is a practical and logical evolutionary step in transportation operations. As congestion continues to grow, the ability to expand the roadway network is limited by both space and resources. This system will assist in managing incidents across the corridor to support traffic flow as well as improve day-to-day operations of the system. The city currently maintains the existing signal system being funded through State Street A. TDOT will maintain the advanced technology components on the corridor for up to 5 years. I'm open for any questions you may have.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Please call the roll.
Ms. Saberwater? Aye. Ms. Gels Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kerr. We have an international dump truck purchase. Mr. Gore.
Mayor, council, thank you. I've got pictures, but I think we've had a long night, so I'll forego bringing my slides up unless you just want to see what a dump truck looks like. So we are replacing a 2000 Mack dump truck with a 2024 International dump truck. Budgeted $190,000. We got the contract for $141,414, so significantly under budget, and we would request your approval.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Please call the roll.
Ms. Saberwater? Aye. Ms. Gels Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye. All right. We also have a jet vacuum sewer cleaner purchase.
This may be a picture you'd want to see if you don't know what a jet vac truck is. John? There you go. Okay. So we do have a 5-year capital expenditure plan where we look at these replacement vehicles. This one is actually programmed in for FY24. However, these jet vac trucks are taking 12 to 15 months lead time. So it's $500,000 was budgeted in FY24. We have a source oil contract for $474,990, but we do intend, we've got a $1.66 million sinking fund for future capital expenditures in our FY23 budget, so we would propose to take those funds out of this year's budget. So I'm available for questions if you have any.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Please call the roll.
Ms. Saberwater? Aye. Ms. Gels Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye. All right. You have, looks like some beer permits. Ms. Brown?
We have a couple of regular beer permits tonight. One is a ownership and name change for a restaurant at 2306 Medical Center Parkway, Suite B1. The other is a new restaurant at 1112 Dr. Martin Luther King Boulevard. We also have a special event permit for an MTSU event on October 14th. All applicants have met requirements for beer permit and are recommended for approval pending building and codes final inspections.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Please call the roll.
Ms. Saberwater? Aye. Ms. Gels Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye. We have a cable commission appointment. I don't see that on our,
I don't see it.
I didn't see it.
all right, we'll do that at the next. I think this is for the school board. The school board recommended a replacement. I think
Richardson?
Jimmy Richardson is for the new cable TV appointment, and the school board by ordinance has to have one person on the cable TV board.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second.
Ms. Saberwater? Aye. Ms. Gels Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye. Any other business, any statements?
No, sir.
Any other business? Mr. Gore, you've been awful quiet.
This hasn't been too tough tonight, so I appreciate it. No, I don't have any other business.
Make sure and
Mayor.
let
Thank
Craig know that. Council members, y'all have any other business?
No.
Darren?
Yes, sir.
Do we know we're at next week meeting?
I spoke with Craig about it earlier this week. It was undecided. Yeah, I do believe he's trying to avoid a meeting the first week of October, which is fall break.
Yeah, I know I'll be out of town for the first week for fall break.
I'll be with grandbaby's birthday.
So next week is TBD.
Okay, council members, I probably will wait to hear from Craig, but I would, knowing that we're not going to be meeting, really the first 2 weeks of October is fall break for county and city schools. Just be prepared, probably we will have to meet next week, but we'll wait to hear from Craig. And also, I know we all will keep Craig's dad in our prayers, hoping that he was supposed to be getting released. When I talked to him today, he was getting a PIC line installed and hopefully be back home soon. So, all right, seeing no other business, thank y'all for the late night. We'll stand adjourned.
Mayor.
Congratulations.